Welcome to Being Human. I'm Barbara Keynes. Our program is about humanism. Humanists attempt to create consensus on values that everybody can embrace, which is why Agate Gramate-Kedzior's choice of issues is in itself controversial. She is the acting director of Canadians for Choice. It's not an issue we all tend to agree on if the past is any indication. Agate is today's guest and comes to us from Ottawa.
Humanism has a position on abortion. It not only believes women should have choice, but that option and advice should be readily available.
Later on, I'll ask Agate if the pro-choice movement is also pro-abortion. We are back with Agate, and she is the acting executive director of Canadians for Choice. Agate, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Difficult topic to discuss.
Absolutely.
What's it like for a woman to go through an unplanned pregnancy?
Well, certainly it's always shocking when you're not planning to get pregnant to all of a sudden see that positive sign on the pregnancy test. And I think women go through a range of emotions. It's a very unique experience. But most of all, they're really concerned about what they're going to do, whether they're going to choose to continue the pregnancy and parent, or if they will choose to terminate the pregnancy.
What services are available in Canada right now?
Well, in terms of abortion services, it really depends on the province and the region of the province or territory that you live in. In urban centres, it's easier to access abortion services, and most of northern Canada does not have abortion services.
And what about other services? Because you really cover 3 areas.
Yes, that's right. So we do speak of all options, all 3, including adoption, parenting, and abortion. In terms of parenting, there are some programs offered by Health Canada, for example, about healthy parenting. There's the child care benefit from the federal government. And for adoption, we really refer to adoption agencies because they're the experts.
When women are calling you with an unplanned pregnancy, what stage are the vast majority of them at?
In terms of the gestation of the pregnancy?
No, well, that too, but also in their decision-making process.
Mm-hmm. I would say that most women already have made a decision. It's not a decision that they make lightly, but the majority of women that we speak to on the phone have already decided that at that time in their life, it's not feasible for them to continue a pregnancy because they just can't offer the kind of life that they would like to give to a child. We do sometimes have women on the phone who are very, very ambivalent, and so we provide unbiased and accurate information to support them in their decision-making process.
What are some of the stories you're hearing?
Well, just yesterday, I spoke to a woman on the phone who had been on an anti-choice or pro-life, as they call themselves, website that informed her that surgical abortion is done by placing poison inside the uterus in order to kill the baby, and that this poison travels up to your breasts and gives you breast cancer. Obviously, all of this is inaccurate. Those are myths, but we hear a lot of stories like this on our phone line, and women are really obviously become very scared about abortion because they're getting inaccurate information such as that myth.
Where is this coming from?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of anti-choice groups who have the resources to have nice websites, to have campaigns on university campuses throughout Canada, and really they're a very united and well-funded group. So a lot of women, obviously, one of the first resources they'll turn to is the internet, and so they'll Google Abortion Canada, and as we've researched at Canadians for Choice, the top 3 hits are anti-choice websites. These websites are sometimes very sneaky in terms of really looking like they're pro-woman and supportive of women's choices and all 3 options. But as women click further and further through the website, it becomes quite clear that they're providing misleading and inaccurate information about abortion so that women will not choose that option.
Well, what are you doing to combat that?
So we have a toll-free 24/7 phone line which provides unbiased and accurate information about all 3 options for anyone in Canada, women and men. We don't guide anyone to a certain option. We provide them with whatever information they're looking for, and we'll refer them to the closest services in their community. We also have the Norma Scarborough Access Fund. So we help to fund women who have to travel long distances to access abortion services outside of their community.
Give me an example of how that would work, for instance, in
Sure.
Prince Edward Island.
Right, so PEI is the only province in Canada that does not have abortion providers. They never have, in fact. So what women have to do is get an appointment with the only doctor that will provide a referral so that the woman can then go to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And if her abortion is at that hospital, then it will be covered by the PEI healthcare. However, her travel and accommodation to get there is not reimbursed or paid for in any way by the province. So we would be able to fund that through the Norma Scarborough Emergency Fund.
And who's funding you?
We have very dedicated individual donors, and we also have one major donor who provides a large chunk of our budget.
What percentage of women in this country right now are experiencing unplanned pregnancy? How big is it?
Right. Well, that's very hard to determine. I don't have statistics on that. However, we do know that there are about 100,000 abortions per year. You know, how many women have unplanned pregnancies versus planned pregnancies is really hard to know because data is not collected specifically on that.
Well, I'm wondering what percentage of women, when they're calling you, then opt for abortion versus adoption versus going to, keep the baby.
Right. I would estimate that about 95% of the calls are regarding abortion services. There are some women who ask us about, for example, parenting benefits, because one of the barriers for them continuing the pregnancy is really finances. That's always a huge factor in women's decision making. You know, can I feed and clothe this child? But the majority are really seeking information about abortion and how to access services.
I'm getting from you, humanists believe that there should be abortion services. How ethical is having an abortion?
Well, at Canadians for Choice, we don't look at it in terms of ethics. We look at it as being a medically necessary service that is covered under the Canada Health Act, and that is really necessary for women's health and well-being. If a woman is facing an unplanned pregnancy and no longer wants to be pregnant, she will find a way to terminate that pregnancy, whether it's in legal or illegal means, safe or unsafe. So really what we're advocating is that choice needs to be there so that women's lives are not put at risk.
And explain to us, how would women's lives be at risk if if abortion services weren't available in this country?
Well, statistics demonstrate that in countries where abortion is illegal, the rate of abortion is just as high as in countries where it is legal. So criminalizing or making abortion illegal does not stop it. It just means that women are seeking out illegal and unsafe means and are suffering complications from it or even dying.
What's the situation like in Canada right now, where there aren't as many services in certain areas? Are we hearing atrocities happening?
We haven't heard that many on our helpline, thankfully. I know that one of our staff had heard a story of a First Nations woman in a rural area of Canada who could not access abortion services, and so did try to self-abort, and she hemorrhaged but was able to get to a hospital in time before it got worse. So,
how big do you think that problem is?
I really can't say, because we don't hear about it that often enough on our phone line. I'm sure that there are women who are desperate enough that they would try, for example, self-aborting with knitting needles or falling down the stairs or getting punched in the stomach by someone. As we heard, pre-Morgentaler, that those things were happening. I'm sure that there are women that still feel desperate enough that they need to end their pregnancy no matter what.
Now, You're getting most of the calls, the vast majority, from women. What about men? How many men are calling?
Right. We have a small percentage of men that do call. Oftentimes they're partners of women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy, so they're accessing information and resources for their partner while she's busy at work or school, and they explain that to us. And sometimes we do have men calling saying, what are my rights in this situation? Either, she wants an abortion and I don't, or vice versa. And we tell them that it is a woman's right to choose, and men in this specific situation have no rights.
How ethical is that?
Well, again, the pregnancy is in the woman's body, right? And so if another person, whether it's a boyfriend, a partner, a husband, a father even, had the right to make that decision for the woman, then I think that becomes unethical, because it's forcing or coercing someone to follow through with something that is happening bodily and physically to them that they don't want to happen. So we always encourage men to have very open and respectful conversations with the women in their lives who are facing an unplanned pregnancy, so that they can come to an understanding together.
Men can get advice from your group. What rights can they have outside of your group right now in this country?
In terms of a woman facing an unplanned pregnancy and choosing abortion?
Is there anything they can do legally or have done legally? What's going on with the situation with men?
No, there is nothing they can do legally. Just as the Chantal Daigle case in Quebec demonstrated, a man has no right to decide whether a woman continues or terminates a pregnancy, legally speaking. What happens, in day-to-day life in people's homes is another story.
What's your advice to both, to men and women? If there's this indecision, what advice do you give a couple that calls you?
Well, we never provide advice. We provide compassionate listening,
right.
Yeah, and we provide accurate, non-judgmental information so that they can make their own decision. There are other organizations that offer what's called options counseling, and that is, again, an unbiased, supportive counseling that helps people, get to their own decision by asking questions that, dig deeper and help them reflect on what it is that they do want.
What do you want people to realize about this issue?
That it's about women's health, that women, if they're facing an unplanned pregnancy and don't want to be pregnant anymore, it's about them having the choice to access what is a medically necessary legal service in Canada. And I really hope that people's religious beliefs will not block women's right to choose.
Why is that so important?
Because it is blocking women's right to choose. There's a lot of, as I mentioned, inaccurate information and myths that are fueled by religious and spiritual beliefs that abortion is, killing a baby and is a sin. Regardless of that, I think that more importantly, people, men and women, have the right to have access to accurate information and services, whatever their choice is about their health and their bodies.
This topic has to be all-consuming when it comes to yourself, day in, day out, 24/7. How do you deal with it?
It's not always easy. Certainly, we face a very hostile and aggressive environment from the anti-choice side. But I have a very supportive coworker, a very supportive board, and I take time for myself. For self-care and my hobbies.
Agate, thank you very much for sharing all of that with us.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. Coming up, Agate and I will be back to discuss whether the pro-choice movement is also pro-abortion. Welcome back. We're back with Agate. Agate, what's the biggest misconception about the statement pro-choice is the same as pro-abortion?
Well, that is the most common misconception that exists about the pro-choice movement. And in fact, we are not pro-abortion. We believe that Canadians should have access to contraceptives and comprehensive sexual education so that the need for abortion is reduced. Abortion is not something that anyone wants to go through, but it should be there as a backup option in case a woman chooses so.
How did you become so passionate about this issue?
Well, when I was 23, I did have an abortion, and it's something that I never regretted. I was very glad that I had that option available to me, and in fact, I lived in an urban center. I had access to the information I needed. I had support from everyone in my family and my friends and my partner at the time. So it was really quite accessible for me, which is not the case for the majority of women in Canada.
Because you're dealing with it every day, you're so a matter of fact about it. But what was it like, actually, if you go back to that time going through that?
Well, it was always very clear to me that if I were still in university and felt that I was not financially stable enough to have a family, that I would terminate the pregnancy. And that was the decision I made. I never regretted it. And it was, I experienced a lot of emotions surrounding it because it wasn't an easy decision, even if I was always certain about it. But like I said, I had a lot of support, so I was very fortunate.
What are some of the feelings that you went through?
I was sad that it was a time in my life when I couldn't continue a pregnancy and become a parent, because it is something that I want for myself. But I was also very grateful that this service was available to me just 2 blocks away from my home, and that my mom and family and friends, as I said, were very supportive of me, so that I didn't regret it.
And you're saying today it's still very difficult for women to get an abortion. What is the situation right now?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of taboo and there's a lot of stigma surrounding abortion. There's a lot of secrecy. I find a lot of people can't even muster the courage to say the A word. That's really problematic, because when you don't talk about something, then a lot of stigma and taboo builds up around it, and people don't have accurate information about it.
What do you want people to realize?
That blocking access to abortion services is not going to help anybody's situation, and that women have the right to choose what to do with their bodies.
What's your opposition? What's the state of the opposition right now?
Well, they're feeling quite confident with the Conservative majority government, and as I've heard them say at the March for Life in Ottawa just last month, they're quite confident that they will make Harper listen to them, and they're seeking the recriminalization of abortion as well as gay marriage.
What do you think the chances of that happening? What are the chances of that happening?
If we listen to what Harper has said himself, he refuses to reopen the abortion debate and will, tell his members of parliament not to reopen it. However, the fact that there is a majority means that they could pass a bill as they've tried in the past.
What would that mean to women?
I think it would be incredibly dangerous and risky for women's status as citizens in Canada, and also for their health. Because I think we would be going back to the pre-Morgentaler Canada, when thousands of women hemorrhaged and died from botched back alley abortions.
In actuality, how many? We're talking thousands. Do you have an actual number, say in a year, of how many self-abortions or backroom abortions failed?
Unfortunately, those kinds of statistics don't exist because it was so secret. And not talked about, and obviously doctors could go to jail, or persons could go to prison for trying to provide so-called abortion services. But we do know that it was in the tens of thousands.
What's your message to people today about this?
To support choice in all aspects of life. Because people have the right to do what they want in terms of not only their bodies and well-being, but the way that they want to live their lives, and we shouldn't be making any decisions for them.
And if women or men want to contact you, how should they do that?
Well, we have a 24/7 toll-free hotline that anybody can call throughout Canada, and the number is 1-888-642-2725.
Agate, thank you very much for sharing that with us, including your own personal experience.
My pleasure, Barbara.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Humanism has been around for a long time, longer than many of the world's major religions. It's the search for truth, knowledge, and values human beings can share. Humanist Canada promotes this coming together, and part of that effort is this show, Being Human. It will bring you some of the world's leading thinkers on a wide range of subjects.
That's Being Human from all of us here. Thanks for watching. Next week, we'll speak about the evolution of society and how we can begin to live on Earth as if we want to stay.